Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the Malt Travel podcast. A little bit different for this edition in that the bulk of the recording was actually done out in the field on our kind of summer away day up and up to the wonderful Lancashire towns of Preston and Chorley. So we're calling this episode Red Rose Market Hall Heroes. Using our northern tickets, we'd agreed that kind of mutually kind of roughly the same distance from where we're all based got us to Preston, and then we'll talk a little bit about again our visit there and some cracking pubs and beers that we did there as well. So a slightly different format to this edition. The beer news is we're now in the start of July, and just before actually we ventured up to Preston Chorley, news came through that Humphrey Smith, the eccentric brewer owner of Sam Smith, had sadly passed away earlier in that week. Not sure exactly on what date. I think there were papers mentioned he was roughly around 82, 83. So again, we did have a chance just to kind of mention that in the recordings that we did on the Saturday. But again, just to kind of make the point, and if you're an avid listener of the podcast, you'll know that Humphrey and the pubs and his estate often have been, part of our discussions, part of our banter as we've been through it. No matter what we think about the guy, sad to see him go. Obviously, he left one hell of a legacy and a huge estate, including, if you believe the myth, most of Canary Wharf. Be interesting to see what happens to the company now as it moves forward. I think we understand that his son Sam has been running the pubs down in London and the south, and we're assuming that he will take control now of the kind of the entirety. Bruce and I had the privilege of visiting the brewery a couple of years ago. It was a really fantastic experience. Again, quite different to kind of maybe some of the image and the myth about the way the company works. Welzer is a very, very old Victorian brewery, and there's also on the same site a very modern brewery capable of brewing lots of different styles of beers. And again, the global market, which they still have, is still pretty huge. So I say, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the company, and no doubt it'll be something that on the podcast we will talk about in more detail. So as I mentioned, we were planning our summer outing. Last year, we went all the way up to Aberdeen. Unfortunately, diaries, etc., meant that we didn't quite have that window this time round. So being a little bit more kind of scaled down, we were going to use our Northern Rail tickets discounts. So the ones we went for were the £12 for the day's travel, and we agreed that we would head up to Preston initially, and then kind of see how it went really. Actually, on the day itself, we changed plans because Bruce had to get himself back to York fairly quickly. So Bruce was with us for the first part, and then Nick and I carried on. Again, it was as always kind of time seemed to go very quickly, and I think we ended up visiting around about I think 7 pubs was the total that we managed to get to. All again, as always, it's a great day out using those train tickets. I'm blessed in that I can get from Stoke-on-Trent to Manchester on the Northern Line. Nick and Bruce meet at York, and they can then use that to get over as well. So the plan was to meet up in Preston, roughly about 11 o'clock. To first of all have some breakfast. I particularly was interested in the markets. Both of these towns are very renowned for their markets, and I've got to say we were very impressed with both town centres. Very, very busy. Lots and lots of people in and around. Not many empty units or builders, got to say, and in both towns the market was absolutely buzzing. So I definitely would recommend a visit to either of these. Also, a big shout out to the Central Lancashire CAMRA branch. They do a fantastic magazine called Ale Cry, actually in A4. You don't find many of those these days, which you can get from the website. And they've also put together some fantastic ale trails. There's one for Chorley, there's one for Preston, there's one for South Ribble, and there's one for West Lancashire. You can, again, download these from the Central Lancashire CAMRA website. But again, I've got to say, virtually every pub we went into, they were also available in hard copy that you could pick up from the bar. So the really great resources give you a little bit of information about each of the pubs, and also then give you maps that you can follow as well. So definitely a big shout out to the Central Lancashire CAMRA group. So let's kick off then with our first recording, which I actually did with the sounds of Manchester Piccadilly in the background. Well, it's Saturday the 4th of July, and we think this will be probably episode, I think, 81. So I'm just currently at Manchester Piccadilly awaiting my connection up to Preston. Nick and Bruce have already set off, again, courtesy of our Northern Rail Rover day offer day. So the plan is we're going to meet up in Preston, visit a few of the pubs there, somewhere I've not been before to drink. I know Nick and Bruce have been a few times. And then probably we'll end up in Chorley as well, because that looks like it's become a little bit of a beer mecca as well. So we'll try and keep you on the way, updated on where we are, and check in on some of the pubs that we visit. So hopefully another great day in Lancashire, finding some fantastic pubs and great beers. So that was the plan, and that happened. So I was slightly just behind schedule. I got to Preston just before 11 o'clock. Nick and Bruce had already arrived, so we met them on the station ramp, and then we ventured up into town. Very busy Preston. There was a big military event on that day, so there were military bands and lots of people out on the streets. And again, a great bustle really. It's a fairly short walk up kind of pedestrianised roads to the markets. Or markets, because Preston is quite bestowed in markets. I think there are technically three, kind of a mix of outdoor and indoor markets. And our first target was Auntie Dolly's Cafe, which we had read about, which is in the indoor market. I wouldn't say a traditional, well, it is a traditional cafe, but it's in a quite a modern building, very airy, and quite a nice place. Nick and I were very charmed by the breakfast barm cakes. If you're on YouTube, you can see those there as well. Bruce, I've got to say, was less enjoyed his own breakfast, and I think because he wanted to go to an alternative, but you couldn't sit down there. So we decided that we'd spend a bit of time together, just get a feel for the market, plot out kind of what we were doing for the day, and catch up. And again, here's the recording we did in Auntie Dolly's Cafe in Preston Market. Right, well, we've all met up. We are currently in Preston Market in Auntie Dolly's Cafe. We're just going to get some substance downers before we head out. It's a very busy Preston today. There was a military event on, so the streets are lined. Lots of police and people about. So we're in the very nice Preston Market. Looking forward to the day ahead, gents, yes?
Surrounded by excellent local produce at reasonable prices. That's small, but yeah, we've got everything you need. Cheese, meats,
2 or 3 cafes, a bar. We're going to try and get in the bar, which isn't open yet, the Orchard, which is 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock.
Most importantly, I've got a Manchester tart on the way.
Obviously,
yes, you call Sylvia.
Preston is looking a bit. It's a bit of a beer desert in a way in terms of breweries, isn't it? Because obviously this was the home of Matty Brown, and doing a bit of background reading, like most pubs, like most local breweries, got bought out by, I think, either Carlsberg or Tetley's, and then got closed. So
there is a Sam Smith pub here, supposedly.
We'll looking for that. Obviously, we'll perhaps discuss the demise of the great Humphrey later on in our little wander around, as this is the week that unfortunately passed away. So love him or hate him, then Sam Smith will be going through a new generation. Did Matt Brown take up a Theakston's for a while? Sure, I read somewhere they took. Oh, I tell you what, Scottish Newcastle.
They did, yes.
Took Matthew Brown over, and
that's right, yes.
about the same time, didn't they? Yeah. Then they got bought up by Heineken. Yeah. And obviously, what we've now got is at Smallsbury, which is on the outskirts of Preston. They've got a massive lager brewery there, which again, I think somewhere like Tetley's or Bass set that up. And it's still I think that's where they're brewing keg Tetley's here still. Yeah, but anyway, we'll catch on with that later on. So we haven't been out for a while, so we've got a few things to catch up on. So
I think I had a pint the other day. Went in the Fat Badger with me, and they have their own Fat Badger bitter, but on the back of the pump clip, somebody's written Tetley's.
Oh, right.
And it tasted like Tetley's. Oh, nice.
So as you can hear there, we settled in there waiting for our breakfast. Preston's an interesting place. It's actually, I've called it a town. It's actually one of the UK's newest cities, getting its city status in 2002. And it's certainly, definitely a bit of a beery kind of a destination. But we said, interestingly, it's been not much brewery action. There are a number of craft breweries now around the town that are developing and growing. Again, looking back at some of the historical records, apparently back in 1850 there were something like 165 different pubs in the town centre, as well as 160 beer houses. There's not quite that many now, but you could certainly spend a good weekend visiting many of the great pubs. And just picking up on that brewery thing, yeah, Matthew Brown's were the Preston Brewery. They're actually bought out by Scottish Newcastle. I think we mentioned that in the recording there. And they closed the brewery down in 1991 and moved all production of Matthew Brown beers to Nottingham, but they didn't last, as often the case. They didn't last very long. And I don't think now I don't think there's any more Matthew Brown beers available these days. We mentioned the other big brewery, which is just outside Preston, in again an interesting little place. Actually, I've been there myself. There's a fantastic medieval house hall there in Salisbury, and this was actually initially a Whitbread plant. They built it specifically in the early 1970s to brew Heineken on contract as part of their lager offer. And over the years, it was then taken on by InBev, and we mentioned there, it's where things like Boddingtons and Bass and Tetleys kind of ended up. Apparently, they're still brewing, and they brew around 13 different beers there, including Stella, Budweiser, and Beck's. Again, there's been quite a little bit in the press recently about, or in the recent Cam report about majority of beers, in the UK now are foreign owned. And sometimes a little bit misleading about where they're being brewed. They claim that the water is still very good around Preston for brewing, and it comes from underground wells. And they claim the water is 10,000 years old that is being used in any brewing currently happening. So after leaving the cafe and having a quick browse around, very very nice market. Quite an eclectic range of different stalls, everything from vinyl records to the normal veg and fruit, etc. Fantastic fishmongers, butchers, a really really bustling market. The market pub, the Orchard, didn't open until 12 o'clock, so we're a little bit early. So what we did initially was we moved on to the Guildhall Ale House. This was one of the kind of most recommended pubs when you read anything about Preston and beer, in a former charity shop, or it feels a bit more like an antique shop, to be honest. This is kind of tucked away on a street just off the marketplace, quite a posh kind of Regent Street, and the Guildhall back of the kind of the civic complex, the original town hall. This was a really nice little spot. Although it just opened, it was amazingly quite. I mean, maybe not look at it on the pictures, but it was pretty busy. Quite a regular turnover of locals coming in. Again, a really good array of beers available on the bar. I think 6 or 7 different cask beers, and then a range of kegs, bottle beers as well. But all in all, a really, really nice little place to kind of start us off. Again, if you're on YouTube, you can see there are some cracking beers settling there that were our choices. I think Bowland Brewery was we all kind of went for initially. There's a little blue plaque, you can just about see it on the pictures, which claims that this is Preston's first micro bar that was opened back in 2016, and in fact is the sister pub to the Orchard I mentioned, which is in the market itself. And again, they're probably about, I don't know, 2 minutes apart from each other. So again, really a good couple of places that you want to go. Nice kind of chill feel in there. You can see there's a copy of the Ale Cry on our table, because that was available as well. So definitely worth picking out the Guildhall Ale House if you are venturing to Preston. We then backtracked and we went back to the Orchard, which is the bar which is based in the indoor market. It's a bit of half and half actually. It's quite a quirky little place. There's quite a small little bar area where you can sit in, and then there's kind of a semi-outdoor bar in kind of 2 parts. And again, if you're on YouTube, you can see that on the left hand side there. We actually sat where those green chairs are, like almost kind of little snug outside. The roof of the market continues over. Really good range of beers. Only 2 cask beers on, but then a really kind of varied range of keg beers. Munich Hell's Paulaner at £5 a pint, which Bruce was very happy about. Lindemans, Polly's, Vault City. So some really, really good beers there as well. Again, reasonably priced as well. It was about 410, 420 for a pint of cask. Again, quite a nice place just to chill out again and enjoy kind of people watching. The only challenge about sitting on the outside bit was that you do get quite a lot of noise or a lot of music from the pipe music, which seemed to be kind of flying around the marketplace. But apart from that, it was kind of a really nice little place. Definitely recommend it. Great place there to sit and enjoying the beer and kind of watching what's going on. I think they do music on Saturday evenings as well. The Marching Bones were on that later on the Saturday that we were there. But again, definitely worth looking out for the Orchard. We were then kind of time was getting on, so we definitely wanted to go to the Black Horse. Nick and Bruce had visited Preston a couple of times before, and this again is one that was on my kind of hit list. This is a Robinson's pub, but it's one of those spectacular Victorian type of pubs and pretty much touched inside. It's on the national inventory camera inventory for its interior, and it's again one of the only 114 pubs in the country which still has the original semicircle ceramic bar. It's been a Robinson's pub for quite a long time, so obviously most of their range was available, as well as some interesting Scottish beers. And I ended up actually drinking a Scottish mild in here. But again, this is kind of pretty much bang centre in the town, in the middle of the town, in the kind of pedestrian shopping area, opposite Costa Coffee, just down from the market. There's a wonderful a glass etched glass door to the gentleman's. Again, on YouTube, and we're promoting Old Tom Strong Ale. Lots of little kind of quirky little rooms in here. Again, if you're on YouTube, you can see that Bruce there, we managed to get settled in this wonderful U-shaped kind of semi-snug, all kind of leather banquette and screens, which was very, very nice. The beer was good. Again, it was pretty steady for a Saturday afternoon. Again, a much more traditional pub, but definitely again worth a visit. And here's what we talked about in the Black Horse. Right, we are currently in the
Black Horse.
Black Horse in Preston at Robinson's pub. We're currently sat in a very nice Victorian snuggage. Bruce is slavering over the pasty oven, which is there, which I'm glad to say is full of rice pasties. So this is beer number 3 in Preston. So we started off in the Guildhall. So we're just completely like a buble at the moment. We started off in the Guildhall, which was very nice. Mike Preston's first microbar. I think you've got its own blue plaque, hadn't it?
Inside the building.
To say it was there. Very nice beers, good range of beers on, 420 a pint. We then went back to the market and we went into the very nice little Orchard market bar, another micro bar. Again, nice range of beers on. Very cheap Polana Munich beer.
Well, they only had two casks.
Two hand pump, was it two cask on? Yeah.
Yeah, continental lagers and stuff.
And again, for a market bar, it was quite
very characterful, yeah.
We sat outside. Unfortunately, you get the blaring music of the market blaring out over you, don't you? But it wasn't particularly busy. And again, similarly, it's ticking over in here. The Guildhall had just opened, and actually it was quite regular. Quite a few regulars coming in.
We made a good job of that. Shop conversion.
Just a pity at the moment. There's a lot of work going on across the road, so there's a lot of scaffold, isn't there? But it was all very good, really. So we're probably going to make this our last in Preston. We don't know yet. Time's knocking on, and Bruce is taking the high road back to York, but me and Nicholas are going to venture further south and carry on to Chorley and pick it up there. So Preston, though, I quite like Preston. It's busy. It's very busy for Saturday night. Like you said, Bruce, it's a proper shopping centre and not many empty shopping. I mean, massive market complex, 3 markets basically, isn't there?
Yeah.
Together. A mix of pubs. Some obviously, lager pubs, and then around the square, but then equally there's some really good craft bars and cask bars.
There's at least 2 or 3 micro pubs, and then your traditional pubs.
And this is a superb pack. This is the best pack. It's wonderful.
These guys are on Robertson Blonde. I am on some Scottish mild.
Mild, yeah, 500 miles.
500 miles, which is very nice. So yeah, we've taken it fairly easy so far.
With these cider glass, we've got proper glasses. I don't like that. I like it when it's proper glass. That's an old rosy cider glass or something.
That's bad. I don't like that.
Shouldn't make any difference, should it? But
so we're probably not going to have time to visit the Sam Smith's Wood in Preston today, and we mentioned earlier on this is the week that Sir Humphrey has passed away. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen to the
the Smiths estate and legacy. We do, I think, we've discussed before, I think his son was certainly running the pubs in London for a while, which had a slightly different feel to them. But it'd be interesting to see kind of what happens.
The king is dead, long live the king.
Yeah, obviously he was a very dominating
Dick Dongovich is dead.
And to see where he'd go. I think it's been a fairly muted, hasn't it? A lot of people have kind of said, for all his whatever quirks, he stuck to his guns, cheap beer in great pubs across the country.
The increasingly corporate world, it was a totally unique way of operating the business and give us something very different from the normal, and retreat from the normal world.
It wasn't his fault that COVID hit the pub trade in the 21, 22, and unfortunately that killed a lot of his pubs, didn't it? Because most of them are wet run, without all the bells and whistles. They're the ones that got biggest hit, and so I know we moaned about pubs being shut, but you can't just blame it solely on Humphrey.
Any online stuff, there's certainly a very diverse collection of reviews between people who liked him and people who didn't like him. People who said he did a lot for Tadcaster and people who said he basically killed Tadcaster. So yeah, it's very much Marmite. People liked him and people didn't. Even down to people who worked for him. I've read 3 or 4 reviews saying he was a total gentleman when he became my pub, and then other people saying he was a complete and utter,
Well, I think it was a mix of that. He was both a malevolent and a benevolent character, wasn't he? He was quite a complex character, but
the true English eccentric.
Which will miss him. And some other pubs don't feel the same now. He's got. It's weird, really.
Hey, you mean everybody who's ever worked for him breathes a sigh of relief, thinking, "I'm safe. I'm not going to be closed down."
I do wonder whether that threat of him being suddenly arriving on your doorstep.
Yeah, that must be relief.
Well, that will ease off pubs, and maybe we'll see the. Yeah. I mean, again, for all the merits, we've said, although Bruce is currently storing his phone now, there is something about coming to a pub and putting your phone away, which was which I quite enjoyed about some
pub managers and landlords being allowed to actually manage and run their own pub, i.e., if they've done it for many years, sure they must be semi-successful at it. Right. But I'm afraid it got to the point where people who were actually becoming managers of Sam Smith's pubs didn't have a clue what they were doing, because anybody of the right mind were never going to run a business when they weren't allowed to run it as their business.
So, other pub news just for this week, we've just been having a quick talk. Yorkshire Pudding Beer, we now are clear that now has been taken over by Wigston Distillery, who are based in Market Wheaton. So Howard, who we've talked a few things about on the podcast, has now retired. And we're not sure
in Spain, I believe.
We're not sure whether the brewing is being done in Malton still. Last time I was in Malton,
no, definitely not.
There was not a lot of activity down
the
that
kit's
day
been
with
sold,
brewing, wasn't it? So that one to look out for. And also the news this week that Hawkshead now are having most of their beers and ciders brewed in Burton, because unfortunately Cotswold Brewery, which they took over, it actually was a cracking little brewery.
You mean Hawkstone, not Hawkshead?
Well, sorry, Hawkstone.
You mean Clarkson?
Yeah, Clarkson's lot. Apparently, it's and they're trying to claim that Burton has similar water to the one in the.
Well, Clarkson could bottle his own piss and sell it, and people would buy it, and then say how delicious it was, and go back for more.
Yeah. I mean, I think the bottles are lovely. The bottles they're expensive, but it's really. Well, the draft we've had has been awful. The draft every time the draft's been. I've tried it twice.
He's admitted himself he was supposed to be using the other grain to brew his beer with. He's had no grain for the last 3 years, according to his television programme. What a really tough time he's had. So where's he getting the grain from? Probably from the same place that Molson Coors getting it from, over in Canada. It's in from Ukraine anymore.
Russia,
yeah.
I don't think he's got a very captive audience on that programme, but he has got some questions to answer about the provenance of his stuff, really, hasn't he? And
And then another global beer news, the top 40 brewers has been announced this month as well. Number 1, AB InBev, are the world's biggest brewers. That a surprise to us. Heineken number 2, China Snow Beer are now number 3.
Wow.
Carlsberg number 4, Molson Coors number 5, Diageo 12th with a 2% rise. No UK owned brewery in the top 10, which is interesting.
And that's why we have listened to China, you see.
Yeah, Chinese snow. Actually, talking of our stats this month, America has suddenly become our key market again.
That's because all the Brits have gone over there, said, haven't you got any real ale, mate? And then all the brewery managers over in America are saying, what's real ale?
In the last month, it was a very, very narrow bunch, actually. So the United States, we had 89% of our viewers in the United States. We had 10% in Singapore and one very, very persistent listener out in Spain. So yeah, it was interesting how that suddenly changed again. But another good month, 2,000 downloads.
I think someone's just spinning a wheel and giving out stats.
Maybe that's Howard from Yorkshire Pudding Brothers.
Yeah, maybe.
Listen to us in Spain. If it is Howard, give us a.
And whether the World Cup in America has helped us boost our listeners. So we're up to 107 listeners in America over the last month. So all good stuff. So I said the plan is we're going to finish our pints here. We're going to wander back towards the station. We might get a chance to dip into the Old Vic, which is just across the road from Preston. It's quite a nice station, Preston. I was quite impressed with Preston station.
How's the old Blue Bell away?
We'll have to check that,
We'll
but
check
the Old Vic is good because they have got the live departure boards in there.
Oh,
for
sounds
trains.
good.
So you can literally.
Well, I've got that before. I see the old Blue
You
Valley.
can leave in the last 2 minutes.
What is big thing?
Yeah, but then we'd have to be here for another hour. So anyway, we will sort that out.
Okay, so again, apologies, the recording wasn't particularly great in the old Black Horse. Obviously, it was quite a busy pub, and we'd had to find a quiet corner. Just to kind of, again, confirm, I actually had something, quite an interesting beer, actually. Iron Pier, I would brew 500 miles, which I've just checked, actually, and actually it's classed as a wee heavy at 3.2%. And I said Nick was very upset that it was served in a rosy cider glass, but it still tasted all right. Yeah, we did set off to head back towards the station. We felt that the old Bluebell, which is the one Sam Smith's pub in Preston, was just a little bit too far to get to. And as mentioned there, quite handily across from the station is the old Vic, which is a much more kind of traditional spit and sawdust pub. Quite a big place, really handy, and it's literally 2 minutes from the platform. So, and as Nick, I think somebody mentioned that there is actually, and again, you're on YouTube, you can see Nick walking past it. There is a departure board there as well, so it's quite handy, and you can sit and time your pint to perfection and go there as well. Again, it actually for a more of a kind of a what you might want to call a kind of a macro pub, it had still had a good range of cask ales on, probably 4 or 5 different cask ales. I think I actually tried. I was on Wonderwall Pale in there, which was again was okay. We just had I went about 15-20 minutes to wait for the train, and I said at this part Bruce then left us, and he headed back over the Pennines to York. Well, Nick and I we were going to venture a little bit further south, about 20 minutes south on the Northern Line, and into Chorley. And so that's what we did. So arriving in Chorley, again, I was quite impressed with Chorley. It's a place that I haven't really been to, maybe gone just doing through it previously. I think Nick and Bruce have been occasionally. I know Bruce, again, dropped off a couple of weeks ago and talked a lot about the bobbin, which is available in the market. As you come out of the station, again, you're almost kind of guided down towards where the market is. A very nice sign, again, if you're on YouTube, Lancashire's Market Town. Welcome to Chorley. I don't know whether Bury might have something to say about that, but there we go. But again, quite a nice redesigned shopping complex. Again, and so what we were really pleased to see was I think was only one empty shop unit in the whole of this area here, so it's really, really good. To be honest, we only just touched the surface here. Again, looking at the Chorley Ale Trail that the Central Lancashire Camera put together, there's some like 7 or 8, and mainly micro bars within kind of spitting distance of the market itself. So there are some really good others. So I know Riley's was one, and there's one called the Garden and Shed. There's one called Bar 38. So looks to be a real great crop of local micro bars. Most of them, again, are selling regional local ales, so really, really good. So actually, our first venture was to go into the market. Again, and in a very, very busy little market it is, half and half kind of food and drink and half retail, normal things like handbag shops, etc. And we're heading towards the Bobbin. So again, if you're on YouTube, there's a few pictures here of the Bobbin. Interesting little setup. It's been here for quite a while now, I understand. Set up in 2014. Always has 3 casks on, mainly regional. And you can sit in. There's a small bar area. Next to that is a small seating area, kind of in a big U shape, with lots of interesting guitars hanging off the walls, etc. But the best bit is outside. There is a kind of a central plaza with a fairly eclectic mixture of tables and chairs. Lots of little kind of bricked little kind of, I don't know what do you call it, enclaves where you could sit in there. And again, if you're on YouTube, you can clearly see them. Lots of twinkly lights above you, quite some interesting architecture. kind of wrought iron roof structure. And again, you are very happy to go and get a beer. There's probably about 7 or 8 different food outlets in there as well. Again, very global offer from, Spudman all the way through to Thai food. So again, you can have a pint, you can go and grab some of that food as well. Quite a few of those food things actually had hatches on the other side as well, so you could also get from outside as well, which was interesting. So definitely a good little venue, and I said we had a good 20 minutes or so in there enjoying our pints. Quite a busy little bar as well, and again it's good to see that a lot of people in there were bringing their kids, but the kids were having the soft drinks, and obviously parents could go and get a beer as well. And then as you come out of the market, and literally you can stagger across kind of one bit of road, you are then into one of the many micro bars. We decided we'd opt for Ben's Tap and Bottle Shop. Ben's is a very local brewery, was set up in 2021, and then the tap room followed that in 2022. Again, if you read the reviews of Preston, this always comes out very well. They tend to have 6 of their own brews available, and then a couple of guests as well. All the brews have got very traditional English names, the Light Brigade, the Duke, etc. And again, I've got to say, we really enjoyed some great glassware you could see in there. You can't miss it, it's Ben's, because wherever you look in the building and outside the building, Ben's is there. Again, there is quite a nice indoor area, but equally you can also sit outside in that kind of central plaza and enjoy your beer as well. They don't do food, but they do encourage you to go and use the food vendors, which mentioned pretty much across the way there. So yeah, we really enjoyed it. I think I ended up having something called Arvac, which is their pale ale, which again, as you can see if you're on YouTube, was a very enjoyable pint indeed. I said there were probably another 6 or 7 bars that we could have visited. Unfortunately, we were both keen to get back kind of on our home visits. So about 3 or 4 o'clock-ish, this was now. So we decided that we'd come back in a future date, and we head back up towards the station, where again one of the other gems of Preston lurks. Again, very handily if you're using the train, because this again is another pub which is literally 2 minutes from the platform, and this is the Malt and Hops. Actually, when we first walked past it, it looked like it was shut. And even when we came back up for the second time, it still looked. And although there are people kind of walking towards it there, it didn't look like there was much going on. Yet you open the door and it was just a mass of people enjoying their Saturday afternoon drink. We did think for a time there was a football or a cycling team in, because lots of blokes in red tops, that we realised they were all posties, and the Royal Mail sorting office actually is just down next to the pub and next to the station. So again, really, really great place. They advertise that they have 9 cask ales on, and I've got to say it was good range again, good beer. And again, a busy pub on a Saturday afternoon. Nick and I were obviously here. We actually ended up sitting outside. If you're on YouTube, you can see those seats out there quite handily. So again, we could make a quick lunch to the station. We saw a train on its way. So this was our final recording of the day. Right, well, we're sat outside in, I won't say the sun, because it's quite an overcast sky. It's quite breezy. We're outside the Malt and Hops in Chorley. We're just about 2 minutes from the station. Just having our, probably what might end up being the final beers of the day. Bruce has left us. He left us back in Preston. But me and Nick we ventured into Chorley and had a good little rumble round, a quick rumble round the market. Really fantastic market. We had a great pint in the Bobbin. Then we popped over to Ben's Bar Tap, and we've come back to the Malt and Hops to finish off our little Chorley escapade. We're back on the train to Manchester. Nicholas is going to go for a pee in a minute, I can see. So any quick thoughts, Nicholas?
No, perfect use of a market space, and it's in central town. You've got half-light retail, like rucksacks and haberdashery, and then your other half is catering and drinks and food. So in terms of the little micro bar that's in there, it's like ideal.
So yeah, really nice use of space. Really impressed with both town centres. Actually, I think we've seen one empty shop in both Preston and Chorley. So the plan is now we're going to probably head back down to Manchester Piccadilly, and depending on the trains, this might be our last pint together. Nick will be heading off via Leeds and then to York, and I'll be zipping down to Stoke. So I'm definitely going to probably have a pint in Bod when I get to Stoke. So yeah, all in all, a quite a nice little soiree. Another great trip to Lancashire.
Yeah, why we're always going to Lancashire, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there's a good network of railway in this part of the year and in this part of the country. And I say
next time, maybe look
to be honest, and you're on. I know this pint.
Yorkshire Pennine side of Lancashire.
This Nick's pint is probably the one he's on now. He's probably his worst of the day. I'm on the Bolton Wanderers Skew Whiter Jock Bank, which is very tasty. So I think actually, apart from this, we've had good pints, haven't we? I know Bruce had a slightly dodgy one in Preston. He had a half, which he left a bit like his breakfast. But
last time he was in that pub, he had a pint of Pepsi. So.
Bruce was a bit unfortunate. He didn't like the breakfast because me and Nicholas chose the venue. Me and Nicholas thought the sausage, bacon and egg barm cake £4.50 was an absolute bargain.
It was filling. You expect for £4.50.
But Bruce was straight away on the back foot, so we won't mention that one. We do know he did have a special purchase in the market where Bruce has brought some snaps to throw at his neighbour. And if you don't know what snaps are, there was a little exploding packets of gunpowder that when you were 7 was a real treat of going to the seaside.
He was very excited.
So at 59, Bruce is still buying those. But say unfortunately he had to depart and leave us. So we'll venture on. So yeah, no, it's been a good little trip out. Certainly Preston is definitely worth a visit if you are beery inclined. The 4 bars we went to were definitely worth revisiting. I love the Guildhall.
And ultimately coming back to the fact that if you got these Northern Rail Rover tickets, which is what we're using today, this is the beauty of those. You can jump on and off. If you can't find
£12 for the day, isn't it?
Beer, then just go somewhere else.
And again, I'll say again, I photocopied mine straight from the internet, and they didn't raise even though I got there, I got a bit worried at the station because when I got there was a trainee doing it, and she had a supervisor behind her explaining her what to do. But they didn't care.
She touched them, feel them, and
she did. And I'd sellotape them on rather than stuck them on.
That's the stuff for me. I've got some broad sellotape that basically
obliterates it.
There's no way.
Right, anyway, Nicholas is going to go to Wick because we've got about 10 minutes to get the train. So off you go, Nicholas. So I'll catch up with you later on my trip back to Stoke. And so that was that was our trip to Preston and Chorley. Again, definitely, I say we really only seven pubs so touched the surface of it. There's some great pubs that we missed out as well. But definitely, if you're looking for a nice steady Saturday, would definitely recommend it. A real mix of old toll style boosters and micros, but all done really, really well. And again, it was great that virtually all of the pubs we went into were very much showcasing regional local beer as well. So definitely worth a good trip. So I say we went our separate ways. Then I headed back down to Stoke. In the end, I didn't go to Bod. Actually, ended up going to my local, the Greyhound Titanic pub, and having a nice pint there just to finish off. And I think Nick again finally got himself back to Malton a couple of hours later. All very good. So that is episode 80 wrapped up. We are due hopefully to get an 81 out, hopefully before we all disappear in our summer holes, etc. What I've asked them to do is think about the best 3 summer boozers. So the weather again is turned really, really hot and really nice. So again, a great time to be thinking about those pubs that have great beer gardens. So that hopefully will feature in episode 81. So we hope you've enjoyed our little trip to Lancashire and our summer deal out. Again, as always, if you've got any comments, if you've any of those pubs you've been yourself, please do let us know and follow us on our socials.